I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live, the diverse and talented podcast. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and today I have the CEO of the Indianapolis Airport Authority, Mario Rodriguez.
Travis, it's great to be here.
Welcome to the show, man. I gotta go back and say, you know, when I first met you, I think we were in San Diego on a business trip, and you know, people were talking about Mario Rodriguez, and you know, I had this image that, you know, because I hadn't met you yet, you know, high position CEO guy, and then we sit and we talked, and I just felt like, man, this dude is such a nice guy, a friend. And now that I've gotten to know you over the years, like you're always just that laid back, easygoing, and fun loving. Is that just your personality?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's you know, I realized a long time ago, everybody puts their pants on the same way. And I have, the way I grew up, which I thought was a disadvantage at the beginning, has actually, your summation of your experience, right? I grew up very poor with very limited means. And I've learned to respect everybody. And everybody deserves a modicum of respect. So that's how I treat everybody.
You know, as the CEO of the airport, which we've won tons of awards, you know, year after year, people talk about this great airport right in, in Indianapolis, right? So what has been the key to building that culture in this amazing new airport?
Well, I've been in, first of all, I've been in this business for over 33 years, right? And you start learning, and I think you understand it 100%, that it really has nothing to do with the bricks and mortars. It all has to do with human capital. You build a team. You respect them. You teach them. You create them. And then nobody's perfect, but you create a team that counterbalances the weaknesses with the strengths, right? Look, I'm an engineer. Concrete sets at a certain rate, 21 to 28 days here, right? It sets the same way in Paris. It sets the same way in Moscow. It sets the same way in Berlin. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People are the really differentiating factor. So that really is the key. Build your team.
When people think about the airport, sometimes I don't know that, like when you go in and out of the airport, you go, man, this takes a lot of people to run this thing, you know, very, very smoothly, right? So talk about like the organizational, the structure of the people, like how big is the staff, that kind of thing.
The staff, you would consider it a small city with about a floating population of about 8 million to 10 million people on any given year. We have everything from public safety, fire and police, to terminal services, janitorial, to field services, to technicians that run the airfield, electrician and navigational aids, the electrical systems and navigational aids. We have engineers, architects, attorneys, and basically it runs like a municipality that has a floating population. Plus, it has planes taking off and landing. A lot of the staff is ours. A lot of the staff is the airlines. Mm-hmm. And there's staff from FedEx, different corporations which actually repair aircraft, provide private aircraft, but it's not just that airport. We have 4 other airports for we call them reliever airports. So basically relieve the pressure on the main airport, and we have a heliport downtown.
I often hear, not often I should say, but across the country, like, hey, there's a shutdown, planes can't take off, or there's some type of issue that's happening right now. In your world, is that like scrambling, or is it kind of like, no, we've just been here and these things kind of happen, you know, because like people are canceling flights and all of a sudden it's like, well, it's you guys, but it might be an airline. Like, what is that process like?
It's after 33 years, it's normal. That's normal. Airspace shuts down, weather happens, weather delays happen. It's not what's going to happen, it's how you react to it. So we're able to bring like breakfast bars and coffee and free water to everybody in the terminal if they're stuck there. We have mats that we lay out for people to sleep if they want to sleep. And, it works out pretty well. We're just trying to make sure that customers that are stuck there, through no fault of their own, have a better experience.
So let me go back now. So talk about where you're from, how you grew up. You kind of talked about that a little bit, but kind of unpack that for us.
Well, I was, and my parents are political refugees from Cuba. They died some time ago. So they had me in New York. We spent a little while in New York. But my parents, interestingly enough, never had a vision, because a political refugee isn't an immigrant, right? And they're a political refugee. They left their country for a certain reason and they want to go back. So over the years, they realized that wasn't happening. So they moved to Miami, to a warmer climate, built a life. Although we grew up poor and with limited means, my parents were highly educated, especially my mom. She was an attorney in Cuba, studied with Fidel Castro, made part of the first government, and eventually made it to the United States, because you don't run afoul of a totalitarian dictatorship without any consequences. So note to self, don't do that. So she ended up in New York and eventually ended up in Miami. And I ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Miami. While I was going there, we had the best football team ever. Yeah, the U. Became an engineer and launched my career. Started building Fort Lauderdale International, helping with the design, the build. I got my career has been very privileged. I've been able to design part of the Hong Kong airport. I lived in Kuwait. I lived in New Orleans, which is a spectacular, interesting city. Along the East Coast, worked in Texas, in California, and now here.
So what actually brought you then to Indianapolis? Because those seem like some really interesting places, and for those of us that sometimes are from Indy, or Indiana anyways, it's not that cool versus some of those places that you listed.
I want to put it that way. Look, at a certain point in my career, it stopped being about my career. And it happens to all of us. It starts being more about the family, about my kids, and so on and so forth. So when I was recruited, I was called by a dear friend of mine who's a recruit, known him for 30 years. And he called me, and the first words out of his mouth is, "Don't hang up on me." I said, "Okay, well, no problem." He goes, "Well, what about Indianapolis?" And that's when you guys were like under snow. It was that polar vortex thing. I was sitting on my balcony in Long Beach, California, in shorts and flip-flops, having a glass of red wine and watching the sunset. So I'm going, dude, seriously, I'm going to send you a photograph of what I'm doing right now. These poor people. But he convinced me. I came over here, and you seldom appreciate what you have, right?
It's fair.
I'm here because my family is thriving here. But I'm here because of you and because of all the other Hoosiers, which are the most genuinely nice people I've ever met in my life. And I've traveled all over the place. And I'm not here for the weather, obviously.
Right.
So it has nothing to do, again, it has nothing to do with the bricks and mortars. It has nothing to do with the weather. It has to do with the human capital you have. And the people over here are genuinely nice and genuinely good people. So it's a privilege to be here with all of you.
That's interesting. I don't know that I've heard anybody frame it that way about this the people that really attracted him to the city.
The people are, look, in my business, LaGuardia, right? So LaGuardia, New York, is spending a ton of money on their airport, right? It's going to be beautiful. Your experience is going to suck in a multi-billion-dollar terminal. You can't fix the people problem. You cannot fix the people problem. And we have the right human capital. Yeah. With the right human capital, you could do anything.
So what's the tough, I'll get to that in a second, but so talk to me about, family. You start talking about family that's here, that's acclimated right here in Indy. Talk about your family.
Oh, and my wife, I met her she was part of the board of our worldwide association. I was part of the board, so I met her in the board. She owns her own aviation company. She's an aeronautical engineer. And we're both engineers. She's way smarter than I am, by the way. And she has offices here, her office. She's got offices in Dallas and in Chicago, and in New Orleans. So this is home base for her, and she travels a lot out of here, out of the airport, which is a really good airport, by the way. Actually, the best in the United States, best in North America. But she travels through here and basically runs her company out of here, which is like fantastic. And the kids, I've got an 11-year-old, and I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and I've got an older son that came out of the Marines, and he ended up here. And he's 31 years old. He's married, he's a fireman. So it's very symbiotic. We're living here, and he came over for a visit, and sort of, it's the old saying: once you get people here, they kind of get it. And he came here, he got it. He's living in downtown Indianapolis, where all the cool kids live, and it really is a great family experience. So we get to see each other all the time.
Do your kids ever go, but Dad, like Miami? There's beach and it's warm, the coast.
My daughter goes there all the time. My sister lives in Miami, so she spends some of her summers over there. They haven't gotten enough life experience to really appreciate this place yet, but they will. Everything looks cool to them. Life in other places is more difficult.
Yeah.
Life over here is easy. All of you make it easy. And so, everything from parking or going to the grocery store. And I remember having conversations all the time about traffic over here. I came from LA. There's no traffic here. I don't care what anybody says. There's absolutely no traffic here whatsoever. So you can't go 85 miles an hour. You have to go 65. You got to slow down 65. But honestly, it's a wonderful place to live.
So back to this job, this position. What's a tough day look like for you?
Hey, what's interesting? A tough day, and a little bit of a background. I went through Katrina, and I went through a bunch of other disasters. A tough day was COVID, and making sure our people kept their heads during the emergency. It was like Katrina, but in slow motion, right? And it took about 2 years, and making sure that we didn't miss that, because in emergencies, it's fascinating, by the way. If you're in an emergency and you step back, you could figure out what you could change. But most of it you can't. It's way out of your control. There's very little things that are in your control, or your spectrum of control. So what happens is that all your team is running around with their heads cut off like chickens, trying to control things they absolutely cannot control whatsoever. So we went into COVID with 400 operating days of reserve, full operating days. We did not furlough anybody. We didn't release anybody. We kept the entire team. Going back to the team, and people are incredibly valuable. Everything else is not. And we came out of it in good shape. It was very difficult to keep everybody motivated and focused in the right direction.
So when you went into COVID and they started having that conversation, you're like, hold on a second. There's umpteen millions of people that kind of come through and go through here. And there had to be one of those days when you walked in there and you're like, it's quiet. And there's nobody here. It
was a Stephen King novel, dude. You'd walk in there, and my number two and I would walk down the concourses and greet the two passengers that were getting on the air. There were more crews on aircraft than passengers. I should have brought a putter so I could play golf through the terminal, because there was nobody there. But the United States transportation system, the aviation part, in 2019 moved over 1 billion passengers domestically and internationally. It's a fact of life. You don't think about it deeply, but unless you sprout wings, this is the transportation system of today, tomorrow, and for the foreseeable future. So everything was going to come back online. Now, if it isn't, we've got another problem. Because if COVID really continued to progress in a negative way, all right, we've got a different problem. But if we were going to recover, which I just assumed, it was going to recover slowly. The thing is time. The factor is, the real delta was time. How much time would it take? And is 400 days enough? Which, absolutely. If we burned through 400 operating days of reserve, zombies would be popping out of the ground at that point.
What about, you're in this position as a CEO of a major airport in America, but there's not a lot of people that look like you.
Yeah.
That
There's probably 4 people there's about 500 commercial service airports in the United States. There's about 5 people, 6 of me. And there are maybe half a dozen African Americans, maybe a dozen. That's it.
So does that feel like breakthrough for you? Does that feel like privileged opportunity? Does that feel like a burden? What's?
I guess it feels like all of that. But remember, people that look like us, right? And women had to be 2 to 3 times as good as their white male counterpart to get to that position. And diversity and equity to me are a moral imperative because I've lived it. But if you look at it logically, it's a business necessity. My team, the entire team of the airport, 52% are women or minorities. And we've won Best Airport in North America, and now for the 11th year, more than a decade, and 5 J.D. Power Awards. Not in spite of our diversity, but because of our diversity. Because when you're a summation of your life experiences, right? Your life experiences are different to mine. So if you have all these life experiences around a table, all this tacit knowledge, you're going to get a lot of point of views. And if you look at these points of views and you analyze them, you're going to get the best point of view. If you have all of the people around the table looking the same and having the same life experiences, you're going to get one answer all the time. So I think it's a privilege to work with such a diverse group, and it's a privilege to be able to create a diverse group. We have a focus on diversity. Now, our industry is incredibly white male dominated. It has been for a very long time. But like I said before, if you see a Hispanic, an African American, or a woman in this business, they probably are 2 to 3 times as good as their white male counterparts because they had to be. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense coming from my seat and knowing the struggle and what you've had to overcome and knowing how many times you were at the table knowing that you were the best, but you still didn't get the job, you still didn't get the business, you still didn't get the opportunity, and you look back and you're like, why? And you're like, well, heck, I'm not even the best, I'm twice as good, and we have that and still don't.
Look at our team. 5 J.D. Powers, 11 times the best airport in North America.
And let me ask you, let me jump in. What is that about when they rate that and we see that and it comes out and we get this award?
It's you guys. It's the customers coming out. There's surveys that go out to the customers. We don't do the surveys. It's a completely different company that goes out and surveys the passengers. J.D. Power surveys the passengers. And and what's interesting is that I think people are not. I think people are good. I believe in people's better angels. They just don't think in diverse terms. I think some people don't think in diverse terms. They don't think, well, why is the airport getting so many awards, and why is this team getting so many awards? I think they rationalize it by, well, we should be getting this much award. The building's bigger, or their building's better. It has more light. It has nothing to do with all that. It has to do with an incredibly diverse team that focuses in on doing the right thing and adding public value every day of the week. So it really has to do with the team. It has very little to do with the bricks and mortars. But that's, so a lot of people in this industry, it's incredibly difficult to put that into their heads that diversity not only is a morally right thing to do, it's a business necessity.
And you said that, I think that's great to, for people that are listening to go, yeah, this really does impact your business when you think about it. We launched our Diverse and Talented campaign, really trying to drive the narrative that, at least in our industry, you can be both diverse and talented. and that you don't have, it's not an or, because a lot of people, it's like, oh, this DEI thing and oh, this equity thing, I've got to give up real talent because I'm hiring less than, and we're like, no, we are super qualified, super talented, and produce great product, because in our industry too, it's still very white dominant. There are agencies right here in this city that have 100 people to our 10 people, but we have more people of color with our 10 than they do with their 100.
Absolutely.
And so it's still one of those challenges. So talk to me a little about, so you've been in this community now for a while. So what do you do in the community? I know you're on different boards. You're literally everywhere. So
I'm on way too many boards, but on both chambers boards, the Indiana and the Indianapolis chamber. I'm on the Sports Corps board, and also the Visit Indy board, which is incredibly important, and various other philanthropic boards that actually add value to the community. It's important to me. Look, part of my job, not only morally, but as a CEO, is to transfer some of the value, monetize some of the value of our organization back to the community. I can't do it with dollars and cents like a private sector firm, but I could do it through economic impact. I could do it through listening to you, figuring out what you need and trying to give you what you need in the air service realm, right? So that's why we're on the boards. We're adding value to the community, and our entire team is on boards. Our entire executive teams. There are, some are on the boards that handle the All-Star games, right? Yeah. Some are on the
which I'm on that board, and I'm super excited about the NBA All-Star coming, absolutely. What that's going to do, and so when events like that start to come to you start getting like, oh man, what we're going to do in the airport, how we're going to make this look and feel, and how we're going to activate that.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's going to look like the All-Star game in the airport. We have people on the Urban League and various other organizations which are very, very solid. And I'm just privileged to be able to serve. I'm privileged to be able to serve this community and make things a little bit better.
So what do you, what are you trying to do next in your realm? You're at the top of the game. Yeah. So what is driving you at this point?
And by the way, these awards are all a byproduct. They're not the end. It's just a byproduct of what we're doing. So most people view where we work as a for-profit sort of like private sector business. It's not about making the money. It's about what we do with the money, how we put it back into the community. For example, and this is just a very, very, if you start thinking about it, it's a very powerful example, but it's a very small example of what we do. So there is this furniture manufacturer, that is universal for airports, right? So they build furniture for airport. They're bulletproof. It's called Arconis, and it's in Canada. Not that I don't like Canadians. I don't like exporting economic impact. So we found a local alternative from Jasper, Indiana, and they built a very good piece of furniture. It's not as strong as the Canadian ones because it's not the same environment. So we got a local upholsterer to fix these on a regular basis. So instead of sending a bunch of money to Canada, we send a bunch of money to people that are here, that could feed their families, that could build a better life. And an upholsterer in town right now has a job forever.
I love that. Love that how you creatively thought about how, because what a lot of people talk about is that we got to keep money here or localized, or they talk about that, right? But then in practice, they don't do it. And we've had organizations that we've run into where like, right, you all your marketing goes out of Ohio, and you're like we have those conversations and see that. So I applaud you in the airport for putting your money where your mouth is.
Our job is to make our community better. And we 85 to 90% on any given year of everything we spent, every dollar we spent, which is millions and millions of dollars, is spent locally. And we have that local alternative. And, I was, as an engineer, I was working in Miami. Our offices were in Miami. I could see Miami International. I could get a job in Hong Kong, but I couldn't get a job in Miami International. So it's the theory of you're never a prophet in your own land. And we have incredibly talented people here, and we have incredibly good products, and we should use them.
Yeah.
And we should make our community better and not export our economic impact.
Do you ever walk through other airports when you're flying and traveling? You're like, "Oh, that's really cool. I think we should do that." Or, "Man, we should implement that." Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I do, but it's very powerful to be on all these boards and be in all these community activities because I listen to what you have to say. For example, right now we have certain companies that are proposing products that would eliminate personnel, right?
Yep.
For our customers, a human interaction is very important. So we wouldn't buy those products as advanced and cool and neat, and at the end of the day, this human interaction is incredibly important. Look, we've got these, we got the first in the nation, the first public safety officer plan in the nation. So what we're doing is we're using a pipeline to bring in community members, students really, from underserved communities and bring them into these positions. We pay for their education fully. Then from then on, they could choose whatever role they want in the organization and we'll train them up for that role, whether it's fire, police, or whatever. We've already had 3 candidates that have flown through and are already police. And you create those people and create that talented team, and to replace them with a cool product is incredibly neat and short-sighted, you know?
Right.
We're going to replace them with some cool product. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, so I got to put you on the hot seat now.
Sure.
All right, this has been the calm seat. We've been chilling,
Sure.
but now it's hot seat. I'm gonna ask you a bunch of your favorites,
All right.
and then you just give me one word or phrase answer. If you got to elaborate, feel free to. All right. Favorite place to vacation?
New Orleans, Louisiana.
Coolest city you've ever been to?
All of them. It depends. You know, you find, for example, most impressive, New York. Impressive city. The easiest city to live in, right here. Right? Best food, New Orleans, Louisiana. So everything has
All right.
something.
All right. All right. Best place to get a glass of wine?
Divvy.
Favorite homemade meal?
Pasta.
A restaurant you love to go to?
Let's see. Bluebeard.
A brand that you love to support or you love?
Indiana homegrown.
Favorite sports team?
Pacers. Fever.
Good answer. College. Favorite college?
Shit. University of Miami. The U.
I gotta say those shoes right there, those purple ones, are from Nigel Pack back there,
awesome.
who is actually starting point guard for the University of
Yeah.
Miami. A last TV show you've binge watched?
Oh, good Lord. I think it was it's a German show called Dark, I believe.
A must watch movie for people?
That is Casablanca.
A great book you'd recommend?
100 Years of Solitude.
Favorite type of music?
Jazz.
Your hype song, your walk up song, what would it be?
Anything by Snoop Dogg.
That's a great visual right there. And then a nonprofit you love to support. I know you got a couple of them, so.
You know, there's so many, but the one that comes to mind is Dress for Success.
Final question is, at some point in time, all of us, it comes to an end. You have a number, a dash, a number on a tombstone, and there's a bunch of people standing around talking about Mario Rodriguez. What do you hope that they say about you?
Well, it just to lay out the foundation. I don't believe in legacies. The only thing I want to do is make people's lives a little bit better. I just want them to say, "Hey, look, he was a nice guy." That's it. If I do the right thing, someone in the organization will have a better life. Their kids will have a better life. And that's all I want. It might sound altruistic, but a lot of people helped me when I was coming up. And that's the only thing I'm trying to do.
Well, I started off the show talking about when I first met you, how easygoing and easy conversation, and how easy our friendship has started. And so I think you have a lot of people that are going to say, man, that dude was so nice, easygoing, and super helpful, and made an impact. With that said, you get to close us out.
All right. And it's a wrap.